Hello everybody and welcome. This is Not a Pro Gardener here. My name is Kyle. It's about 80 degrees and the wind's blowing pretty hard today. Feels great out here. So what we're going to be doing is in the in-ground garden, we're going to be transplanting our tomato transplants, the ones that we seed started indoors. Now the reason that we like to transplant our tomato plants would be to have that bigger plant. We want to be able to have that robust sized plant to put in the ground because the dogs could step on it, kids, the wind knocks it over. So, one solution you could do to this would be to bury your tomato transplant. Now, you can bury it up to about half to 3/4 size of that plant, not the ball of roots, the plant. So you bury it about 3/4 in the ground. That will help stabilize it till it gets big enough to trellis it or put a cage around it, whatever you may do. Now, one of the problems about tomato plants that people probably do not realize or know about it, but it's not that big of an issue for them, would be blossom end rot. Now, blossom end rot is a disease that causes them fruits right out there at the blossom to start to rot, start to turn, and you don't want that. There are a few ways to alleviate these problems or to make them a lot better. Is calcium. A good source of calcium is pelletized gypsum. You can get some pelletized gypsum at your big box store. There's quite a few places to get it. It's relatively inexpensive. But when you dig your hole to put your tomato transplant in, because you like to bury them, you want to put about a handful, around, 8 ounces or so in the hole at planting. And along with that, that will help because calcium gets taken up through the root system. That's how the plant takes up that calcium, is through the root system, and it goes through the plant and it gets to the fruit where it needs to be to help prevent some disease like blossom end rot. Now, another time when you want to apply pelletized gypsum would be at bloom set. So whenever your plant starts putting blooms on, you want to throw another handful down at the base of that plant, cultivate it in. That'll do wondrous to keep your plant from having blossom end rot. Another problem that people do not think about is tomato plants are relatively heavy feeders. They really like a lot of fertilizer. So some solutions for that would be to put a pre-plant fertilizer in the hole when you plant your tomato plant. I chose a 543 of Harmony. It's a chicken fertilizer, organic, that they turned into a 543, which is the NP and K value. Has some calcium in it as well, which is perfect for nightshades. So we made our furrow, we put our drip tape down, and we sprinkled some of that 543 down with the calcium in it to help also keep that blossom end rot from happening. Then we covered up the furrow already and got all this ready for the sake of time on the video. So if you see me just jumping in here, that's because we already prepared all this stuff ahead of time for the sake of video. Now, another problem that you could have would be a trellising system. Some people use cages or the Florida weave. There's other methods besides this, but the main ones are the cage or the Florida weave. We do the Florida weave here because I've had some not quite satisfied with the cage, so I went to the Florida weave, and yes, it takes a little bit more work, obviously, but I am very happy with that result. So that's what we're going to be doing again this time. We really like to get the Florida weave on those indeterminates because they really like to vine out. They will just keep growing and growing. Now, speaking of indeterminates, if you like to prune or don't like to prune, leave it in the comments below on what you like to do. Prune or not to prune. I personally prune some of them, mostly just the indeterminates, because it helps aid in their fruit size production, because if you don't prune them, it'll keep them fruits. Them suckers will suck nutrients away from the lateral stems that produce the fruits, and it will kind of impede the process of making them bigger fruits. So you can do it, you can't do it. It doesn't really pertain to me to do it, but I do some of them just because I'm there and I'm like, why not? But it's all entirely up to you. Some people probably don't have any of these problems and they're looking at me like, what are you talking about? But this is just for some cases, just talking about what we do. So, sometimes I prune the suckers, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I just like to let them grow because the foliage helps cover the tomatoes and protect them from the sun and whatnot, which is good. Alright, now, since we've got all this work done, all that's left is to put the tomato in the ground with the pelletized gypsum. We already got the pre-plant fertilizer down, got the drip tape ready. Now we got the holes dug. We're going to go ahead and take you over there and just show you the process that we do and talk about the varieties that we are putting in the ground as we're doing it. So let's go ahead and enjoy putting these in the ground because I've been waiting so long for the ground to get 50 degrees. If you're going to transplant tomato plants, you got to at least have your in-ground temperature 50 degrees. Otherwise, they're just going to kind of sit there like a mini hibernation until they start getting up to temperature. Then they'll really thrive. And take off. But I've been highly anticipating this, so let's go ahead and take you over here, show you the fun, and let's get it done. All right, let's go. Okay, everybody, so we got the holes dug already. Now we're just going to go ahead and shape them out just a little bit more to accommodate this bigger transplant plug we got. So now we're just going to take a handful of this pelletized gypsum. We're going to go ahead and put a handful of this in the hole. Usually you just want to mix it around a little bit in there. Now I'm trying something new this year, which would be these felt like they're supposed to be biodegradable, but I'm kind of leery about that. The roots seem to be growing through them perfectly fine. They're supposed to be able to biodegrade easy, and when they do get wet they do kind of tear apart really easy, but they make me a little nervous, so I'm just going to go ahead and kind of split these up a little bit, try to get rid of it, at least most of it, just in case they don't do what they say they're supposed to do, because usually stuff like that just doesn't work out the best. So I'm just going to get rid of most of it, try not to damage the plant as much as I possibly can here. Alright, so I got rid of most of that. Now we're just going to go ahead and make my hole a little bit bigger. We're going to go ahead and drop him in. Then, whenever it's all said and done, I'm going to grab the hoe and kind of try to hill these up a little bit. But other than that, this was not too bad. My ground's a little bit rocky, like, because it's hard clay, but we still can grow tomatoes in this. Now, this variety is a new variety called the Haussinator. So far, it's been more vigorous than any other variety I have seed started this year, and I'm very happy with it. It's supposed to be very disease resistant, so I'm really hoping that pulls through so we don't have any problems this year. So we're going to get got 4 of these planted this year. We're going to get these done, and then we're going to talk about the other ones when we get to them. Okay, everybody, so we got all the Haussinators planted. Now we've got this red snapper variety. which I gotta say the transplant did very well. Gotta make this hole just a little bit bigger. But if you look, the transplant is very stocky. And these were all done the same way. Nothing was different about any of them. Oop, before I put that in there, don't forget your handful of pelletized gypsum. Kind of mix it around the dirt down there at the bottom. And you want to gently ease her in there and start covering it up with dirt. Ideally, you want your dirt to be chopped up a little better than this. But you work with what you got, right? They'll still do pretty good. I didn't bury these as quite deeply as I wanted to, but I can also hill them up later whenever I'm ready. So we got the red snapper planted. Okay, now, all right, everybody, now we got this. Okay, now we're on to the summer pick. And I did some of these in different red cups as well. Not root wrapped. They're not very root wrapped. They were just getting ready to start. This transplant's a little dry, so we're gonna go ahead and get him in there so we can get him watered in here soon. You just wanna kind of cover up the dirt on him just a little bit. Don't push down on him too hard. This ground's a little bit rocky, so we're just going to kind of cover him up a little bit because we got a heavy rain coming in tomorrow, so I want to get all these in. Okay, so now we have this Arkansas Traveler tomato plant. Looking pretty good, really. These are all a very awesome shade of green, I'm telling you. They look very healthy. Put your handful of pelletized gypsum in there. Get that mixed in good. Hole's a little deep. I'm gonna go ahead and set him in there. Then we're gonna kind of gently cover him up. And when they get bigger, I'm gonna floor to weave these guys in. Hopefully for now they'll be in the ground good enough for the rain that's coming in here soon. On to this next variety. It's called the Black Crim, and I'm really looking forward to this one. I tried it last year, but I did not succeed. He still could have been growing in that cup for probably another week or two, but today's his day. Gotta put a little down in the bottom. It's a deep, deep hole, so I'm gonna go ahead and set him in. I gotta tell you, I've been waiting for this moment, putting these varieties in the ground. I am ready to have some taste tests going on. Okay, these, look at this double. I don't know if there's just two plants that grew together or if it's just one that grew like that on its own, but these mortgage lifters were very vigorous in the greenhouse. They took off. They hit the ground running, so I hope they hit the ground running out here too. I'm gonna go ahead and set him down in there. Bury him up pretty good. Okay, he's looking pretty good and healthy. All right, everybody. Next up is the Homestead tomato. I've heard a lot of good things about this one. I had to try it this year. We'll get him seated in there the best we can. Try to put some dirt up on him. All right, everybody, the next one we got is this Mountain Vineyard grape tomato. Put your gypsum down in the hole, and you want to cover him up. Okay, everybody, last but not least is this Kellogg's Breakfast tomato. Really looking forward to this one. I'll go ahead and seat him in his bed and cover him up. All right, everybody, now that we got all these tomatoes in, got our T-posts in, hopefully hopefully the wind don't take these guys out today. And now that we got all these guys in, we're gonna water them in with the drip tape. Next up, we got a nice little hanging basket surprise, so stick around. We're gonna show you what that is right now. All right. So, what I really have been getting into are these dwarf tomato varieties. The cool thing is this one is only like a 12-inch tall tomato cherry plant. And that's all the bigger it gets. And it puts out a lot of fruit to eat. The kids enjoy it, I enjoy it, and it is overall very worth it to me to put these in your garden. You need to give them a try. So what you do is you get your raised basket up here, dig you a hole to put your transplant in. And since it's going to rain really heavy tomorrow, I'm not going to water it in. I'm not going to put any fertilizer on it today. I could put a granular fertilizer in it, but I don't see that being worth it to me. Take my handful of this pelletized gypsum, sprinkle it in there. Get some of that in there. Then you want to plant this, which is a yellow canary. Just set him right in there. You're going to take your dirt, slowly close it up on him. Get him put in his bed. These aren't like normal tomatoes, that's why they are dwarf tomato varieties. And these are a very awesome snacking tomato for the garden. Now that you got your tomato plant in, these only get about a foot tall. And these, I had a Rosie Finch in this basket last year. And me and the kids snacked on them every time we was out in the garden. They loved them. It's a very nice, could be a gift for people as well, which is kind of nice because they really don't need that big of a pot. You could plant them in something about this size. That's all they really need. They really don't need a huge vessel to be planting all this stuff in. Okay, so we got him in. Now you really want to water him in because he's not hooked up to drip tape up here. So you really want to make sure you get him watered in case he tries to dry out before the rain tomorrow. Okay everybody, so the highly anticipated tomato planting session is finally done. We are very, very excited to try pretty much all these varieties that we planted today. And that's the beauty of it. You get to venture out and try all these new varieties that you haven't tried before, which is the fun in that. Try all the different flavors, plant as much as you possibly can, and put up as much as you can. This is Not a Pro Gardener here. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.